Hey y'all, so in this video I want to talk about what is your name. So I came up with the title of this video about a week or so ago because as I was laying in bed trying to fall asleep, as well as kind of pondering on what to talk about next in the video, as I laid there I heard your name is connected to your calling. And I laid there and I said, oh, that's it. That's what I'm going to talk about next. Names. So, me personally, I have been very interested in names since I was a young girl. One, because my first name is not common. I see a lot of people with my first name as a middle name, but they have a different spelling to it. So one, my name is not common. Two, the spelling is definitely not common. And so all throughout my life, I've always had people mispronouncing my name. Misspelling my name, all of the works, right? And so as a young girl, I used to ask my mom, like, where did you get my name from? Because I think I didn't like my name as a young girl because I was tired of people mispronouncing it and misspelling it. So I didn't really care for my name like that. So I asked my mom, where did you get my name from? How did you come up with my name? And did you have any other names for me? And in fact, she did. My middle name was always going to be Raquel because apparently she liked the actress Raquel Welch, right? So I'm a twin. I have a twin brother. So she picked out my name. She had like several different first names to choose from. My middle name was always going to be Raquel. And then my twin brother, his middle name had to go with Raquel. And then she had picked out a first name for him as well. And so my dad didn't like the first name for my brother. He wanted my brother to be named after him. So my brother has my dad's first name and he has his own middle name. And so when it came to me, my dad didn't like any of the names that my mom had chosen for me as a first name. And so apparently my dad told my mom, well, my grandmother, her name was Malise. So my mom said, okay, well, let's name her Elise. So that's how you have Elise Raquel. And then you have my twin brother with his name. And I thought that was very interesting because everything in life, it goes back to the Bible. I know we don't want to talk about the Bible all the time, this. But in actuality, everything in life can go back and be traced back to the Bible. What was Adam's very first job? Adam's job, the man, was to name the animals, name the birds. That was his job, to name. So I found that interesting that my dad had played a part in naming me and my brother. Now, he didn't have a part in naming my sister. That was all my mom. And, my brother, my older brother, has, the people who named him. But I thought that was very interesting that, it's very important for a man to name his children. That is the most important, one of the most important aspects, in my opinion, as a parent. And I'm not a parent yet, but that is the most important thing that you can do for your child, is give your child their name. Because there's a such thing as good names and there's a such thing as bad names. And oftentimes you kind of see those kids coincidentally, even though there's no such things as coincidences, taking off, adapting to the name that they have, excuse me. So to go back to me a little bit. So my name is Elise Raquel, right? And even as a little girl, I wasn't average. I was not your average child. Like, I was interested in things that the average child is not interested in. Like, I was interested in my name and, history, documentaries. I used to watch 2020 on Friday nights at like 8, 9, 10 years old. Like, the average kid did not do those type of things. Like, I love to learn new things. I was excited about learning, whatever it was. So my first name, Elise, and it's spelled uniquely. It's spelled uniquely, and I have a very unique name. I've grown to love my whole name. So Elise means noble and kind. Raquel means ewe, which is spelled E-W-E, which is a female sheep. So noble means having or showing fine personal qualities or high moral principles and ideals. Also, some of the synonyms to noble is righteous, virtuous, honorable, worthy, reputable, exalted. Some of the attributes that are attributed to a female sheep is purity and innocence. I thought that was interesting, right? So, again, my great-grandmother name was Melise. I'm not really sure of the spelling of her name, but Melise means a servant of Jesus. I thought that was interesting. Her daughter, which was my grandmother, my dad's mother, her name was Ruth. Ruth means friend or friendship. And then here it is, you have me and my name. And I'm like, that's interesting. Like, I didn't think about it like that. I never thought about what Melisa's name meant, my grandmother Melisa's name meant. I never thought about my grandma Ruth's name. Like, I just attributed my grandmother Ruth's name to the book in the Bible, Ruth. But it's interesting that her name means friend or friendship. And if you know anything about the book of Ruth, Ruth ended up cleaving to her mother-in-law. She was a good friend, I would say, to her mother-in-law. She, instead of going back to her family, her background, serving their pagan gods, she chose to cling to her mother-in-law and serve her God and be a good companion to her. So I thought that was interesting. And then when you go to the Bible, they make an emphasis on the Bible, on people names and what their names meant. Like, that's an emphasis all throughout the Bible. People names and what their name means. So Sarai, her name meant originally princess. Well, God ended up changing Sarai's name to Sarah. Sarah means noble woman. Okay. Abram, his name meant exalted father. But if you know anything about Abraham and Sarah, you know it took them many, many years to have the promised child Isaac. Okay, so God ended up changing Abram's name from Abram to Abraham. Abraham means father of a multitude. You know, Abraham and Sarah are known as the mother and father of Israel or whatever. So even though it took Abraham a long time to birth the promised child, his original name already meant father. He was already predestined to be a father. And God ended up changing his name to Abraham, a multitude of fathers, right? A father of a multitude, which is interesting. And just to go back on Abraham and Sarah, one of the reasons why they it took a long time for them to have children is because Abraham's father, Terah or Terah, I'm not really sure how you pronounce it. I believe you pronounce it Terah. His name actually meant delay or station, which means he was, he had a generational curse upon him. His family, upon his name, was a generational curse that was brought onto his children because his name simply meant delay. And that delay passed on down to his children and his children's children, unfortunately, even though God had a plan for this family. Then you have Isaac. Isaac actually was named by God. God told Abraham and Sarah, you're going to have a son and his name is going to be Isaac. Like he told them. They didn't name Isaac. God named Isaac. And there's a couple of other instances in the Bible where God actually named certain people. Like he named Isaac, and to my knowledge, off the top of my head, he named John the Baptist. So Isaac name means he laughs. What's interesting about Isaac's name is that when Abraham found out that he was going to be a father of this promised child, mind you, he had already had Ishmael, but when he found out that Isaac was coming, and especially his name, Abraham laughed. Abraham laughed about it, like, I'm going to have a child in my old age, and my wife is going to have a child too in her old age. He laughed. And the interesting thing is, Sarah laughed too. Mind you, this is before the manifestation of a child anywhere possible, right? They both laughed. And Isaac's name mean he laughs. Interesting, right? So then you have Jacob, Isaac's son. His name originally means heel holder or the supplanter. And the supplanter is a person or thing that takes the place of another by force, scheming, or strategy. Well, if you know anything about Jacob and his story, he was known as the trickster. He was sly, He ended up tricking his brother out of his birthright. And really, he tricked his mom. He tricked his brother along with his mom's help. Rebecca was a trickster too. But anyway, God ended up, I believe, in chapter 32, asking Jacob, what is your name? Jacob told him, and then God told him, you will no longer be called Jacob, but your name will from now on be called Israel, because you wrestled with man and with God and you prevailed. And then I believe in Genesis chapter 35, he asked him again, what is your name? Your name is Jacob, but you will no longer be called Jacob. Your name will now be Israel, right? So God changed Jacob's name as well. Just like he changed his grandmother and grandfather, Sarah and Abraham's name, God changed Jacob's name to Israel. And Israel means God prevails. Israel is God's people, right? Then you have David. David's name means beloved or beloved. I'm not really sure, but beloved or beloved, however you say it. And we know that David was absolutely beloved by God. Flaws and all. He ended up being the beloved of God. So those are all good names, right? But then, what do you do if your parent gives you, God forbid, a bad name, right? So there's a story in the Bible of a guy named Jabez. This is in 1 Chronicles 4. Jabez's name means sorrow. And it says, his mother named him that because she bore him in pain. But the Bible says that he was more honorable than his brothers. And so as time went on, Jabez ended up praying to God and was like, God, bless me, enlarge my territory, and be with me so that he because so that he will not cause pain. And God granted his request. His name meant sorrow. And he's like, I don't want to live life inflicting sorrow on people. So God, please bless me and change my name, or bless me and be with me and enlarge my territory, so I don't reap what my name, so I don't sow what my name actually means, which is sorrow. And God granted his request. Then you have somebody with a bad name, Jezebel. That's a bad name. I don't think I've ever met or heard of anyone in the world named Jezebel. Anyway, Jezebel means Baal exalts. Baal is husband to, and unchaste. So basically, what do you associate Jezebel with? You associate Jezebel with an immoral woman. When you think of Jezebel, you think of an immoral woman. Why would anybody name their little girl Jezebel? You don't. And if you don't know what Baal is just a demon god, a pagan god of sexual immorality. Then you have Benoni, and Rachel had him. This is Jacob's son, Benoni. And she named him as she was passing away, as she was giving birth. And she named him Benoni, and that means son of my sorrow. Mind you, she was dying as she was giving birth to him. And before she died, she named this baby that. So his father, Jacob, came behind her and renamed him Benjamin, which means son of the right hand. So this is just a few examples of how you can have good names, bad names, and how our names are so important as we go forth. Like, you know, thank God if you have a good name, if your parents named you a good name, and if you have a quote-unquote bad name, again, thank God that you can go to him and pray to him. God, bless me, enlarge my territory. Don't let me inflict pain or inflict whatever your name means that's not good onto the world, onto these people, onto my family. So I just thought that was an interesting breakdown about names. I'm going to end now before I start rambling. I already kind of started, but I thought that was good.